one of the reasons why I'm very passionate about this is that what I now realize was back in 2018 when I was going to kill myself and suicide and PTSD and all the rest of it. As I started to really look into how the mind works, I then started to realize that I had a neurodivergent brain. So, are you aware of the hunter-farmer theory? Okay, write that down and just go and watch a YouTube video. What I'll do is I'll see if I can find it afterwards to put it in. Okay, so I work on a very simple basis. And I'll try and throw some science in to back this up. Is that actually there's nothing wrong with anybody. In fact, there's everything right with you. It's just that we suppress the warning signals, put labels on them, and then we try and medicate them, right? That's just the way that things are. So the hunter-farmer theory, very quickly, works on the basis that pre 10,000 years ago, before we started farming and before we started to make the culture that we have now, within our tribes, we'd have certain people that were more neurotypical, some were more neurodiverse. And the way that I never use the word ADHD, I always use the word neurodiverse because I think it's more positive and it honors more the experience. So what I started to realize was that I see the obvious in chaos. So most people who are neurodiverse actually are calm in chaos, chaotic in calm. And that's why the tools that I'll share with you today really work. Because if you apply things like meditation or visualization, sometimes that doesn't work. Now, this is where this links into trauma. Because as I started to look into this, I realized something. And that was the experience that a lot of people with ADHD have is exactly the same as the experience that people who have complex trauma have, and also the experience of people who have menopause or are going through perimenopause. So basically, if you're a perimenopausal neurodivergent woman who's gone through trauma, you're screwed. And basically that was the clients that I was attracting, and that's the reason why I say that. Now, I'm going to go a bit woo-woo on this one because one of the things that I couldn't understand was when I started to analyze my clients who were predominantly women, I could not understand why they were coming to see me because everything in the world would tell me that as a white heterosexual male, I was the Antichrist, right? That was that, and I couldn't understand it. But when I started to look into this, I started to look at into this from an energy perspective, from a spiritual perspective, and I also started to look at this from an environmental perspective. Now, I can relate this directly back to the Bible. Okay. So if we start to look at the Bible, it has all of the answers in it. And in Genesis, when God makes man, what he does is he creates two polarities in men and women, masculine energy and feminine energy. Now, when we look at our environment, which is one of my pillars, neurodiverse people are more susceptible to those energetic environments. And so if you're a female, for example, that cannot rest in her feminine energy and have that masculine protection, and this isn't about penises and vaginas, by the way, have that masculine protection, then you have to kind of compensate for it. So you become more hypervigilant and all the rest of it. Now, the reverse is the same. So when we start to look at ADHD, the disorder is not disordered behavior, which is most people think. It's the wiring of the brain. So all that's happened is that as we've moved from being hunters to being more farmers, that neural wiring has been passed down, but your environment in which you're living or surviving doesn't suit your skill set. Does that make sense? And so this is why we find a lot of people with autism, with the ADHD, tend to mask a lot. And they mask a lot because they want to fit in. And we know that as social beings, that in the past, if we didn't conform to the tribe, we would be kicked out of the tribe and then we die. So it's a survival response based on millennia of development where we've kind of split two branches with farmers and hunters. Does that make sense? The other thing is that if we take away all the medical stuff and drugs and all the rest of it, if we actually now start to look at more new age spirituality type things, the thing that I also started to recognize was that we spend more time escaping. So if you're more neurodivergent, you tend to want to try and escape more. You tend to want to hang around with people who've got these labels and all the rest of it. And something very strange happened when I was on a Qigong retreat. So a friend of mine, Ben Calder, his brother Sai, created Life Force Qigong, and I just happened that they had somebody drop out. I had no intention of ever going to a Qigong retreat, and Ben just messaged me and said, "Listen, somebody's dropped out. We're in North Wales. We're going to have a laugh. We're going to have some, Sai's come over from Bali. Do you want to come up?" And I went, "Yeah, yeah, right, cool." So at the time, I was also a qualified Reiki master. So I kind of started to understand energy, and I'll come on to that in a second. But when I was working with Sai, what happened was very profound, and was that I was in that mind of kind of when either you're doing Reiki or you're meditating, you kind of drift off. But Sai was a bit like Master Oogway from Kung Fu Panda, because I'm kind of like doing this stuff and thinking I'm some sort of Zen master. And he came up to me, slapped me on the fingers and went, "No, like this." And as we were doing this Qigong practice, my mind integrated with my body. And it was the weirdest feeling. I didn't even realize. So when we look at ADHD, because we're in that survival response, we're trying, the world tells us this is bad, this is good. And so most neurotypical people will talk to you about have a positive mindset, gratitude, affirmations. But the problem is they don't work if you can't integrate that into your body. You can't feel it. And so the experience that people have with trauma, the experience that people have with ADHD is that they experience the mind and the body in a different way. So the rules don't apply. When I was talking about energy, this is the other thing that I've recognized with people who are more neurodiverse. And please tell me if you've come across this. They find it very hard to visualize. And I can't visualize. And I remember getting really, really wound up when I was actually training with Marissa. And she kept saying about everybody can visualize, or you wouldn't know how to find your car in a car parking space. And I didn't say anything, but I'm like, I can't visualize. I get what she's saying, but I can't visualize. And I found it very difficult when I worked with Vishen Lakhani at Mind Valley, when I was working with Mind Valley. Um, Vishen taught us the six-phase meditation. He took us through all of that. And again, I found it really, really difficult, that future, visioning your future self and all the rest of it. And I just happened to be brushing my teeth one day, and this has been bugging me for years because I didn't fit in, right? I didn't fit into that norm of visualization. I could do it with my clients, but I couldn't do it with me. And there was a Babyliss um, soap dispenser at the side of the sink, right? So I'm like, okay, that's non-threatening. Like that's not dangerous. I'm looking at it. If I close my eyes, how do I visualize it? Okay, so that made sense, right? So close my eyes. When I closed my eyes, I had a profound realization. And the profound realization was I didn't see I didn't see it as an image. I experienced it as energy. So as I think about that now, I can tell you it had a black top. There was a silver cowl on the top that you screwed it onto. It was clear. It had the writing on the front of it, and it had like a purpley, shimmery liquid in it. I can tell you that. I'm not visualizing it. I can't see it in my mind, but I know it to be a truth because what I'm doing is picking up on the vibrational energy of all of those different things, and I've learned to be able to communicate that to you. So one of the biggest problems that you have with ADHD is that sometimes people will have experiences, or they will have an energetic experience which is overwhelming, that they can't communicate. So what I ended up doing was I ended up the polyvagal, do you know the polyvagal theory by Dr. Rob Porges, right? So this kind of links into it as well. So I started to look at this and go, okay, how do I get my body into a safe space, and how do I strip everything away? This then came to me when I was in the gym, and I was working with my mobility coach, and for some reason I couldn't put myself into this squat. I had a panic attack. My nervous system was going mad. Like, my logical brain was going, "What's going on?" And there was another part of my brain freaking out, right? Which is something that often you'll get with ADHD or neurodiversity, is that you'll have this kind of duality that happens within you. So I just attached a word to the release, so that whenever I used that word, it brought my dorsal prefrontal cortex back online. Because that's all that's happening, whether it's ADHD, whether it's complex trauma, menopause, that the mind's job is to keep you safe, and it's a prediction machine. So the next thing is strip the label. If you're working with somebody who's ADHD or trauma, they will take a label on, because it's the only way they can define themselves and communicate who they are in the world. So that's why I always use the word neurodiverse rather than ADHD. Like, who are you without the label? So get them to, that can be quite difficult for them to do that, right? Because it makes you feel vulnerable and naked. But don't use the word ADHD. If they use it to define, to explain something, get them to use the word neurodivergent. Also, I think a little bit different, and that's kind of my superpower. So strip the label off is the first thing. And what is it they need? The next thing is why do you need it? The need kind of links the dorsal prefrontal cortex up with the limbic system. And then the why then connects that to the body, if you want to look at it from a physiological perspective. The third pillar is probably the one that most people need, but they don't know how to express it. And that is creating boundaries, sharing their values, and being able to communicate that safely. So one of the problems that you have if you're more neurodiverse, and personally, I am one of these, is that you sometimes see the obvious in the unobvious, and you see the complex in the uncomplex. So you often will find that people who are ADHD will come out and say something that is so obvious to them, but to other people it triggers them. So there's a methodology. Remind me, I'll share this with you. It's not mine. Lisa Nichols taught it me, which is called having a carefrontational conversation. And it is a really good way that if you are neurodivergent, that you can express where you are without triggering other people. So that's where the confrontational conversation is a really good way in which you can create safety and express what it is that you need or what you're trying to verbalize if you're ADHD, right? The fourth pillar is the one that nobody really talks about, which is environment. And you can't do any of the above three unless you create the right environment. So I've got a couple of tools, and I use these actually on my discovery calls. They're it's very, very simple. One of them is very, very simple, and anybody can use it. I actually did. There's an organisation in North Wales. I'm not in North Wales, but I just happened to be asked to go and do it. It's called We Mind the Gap, and it's basically kids that are kind of SEN. They've got ADHD, and I actually use this technique with these kids, and I got one young girl who never speaks. I was told like she never ever speaks. And she came after we'd done this little session, she came on the Zoom, well, it was Teams actually. And she said, "Thank you for the first time somebody gets it." I'll go back one step first. So, one of the biggest problems that a lot of people have, certainly if they're ADHD, is affirmations. I certainly did, right? And the reason for that is because our brains are wired for safety, and you'll tell somebody to do something and your brain will go, it'll look at the whole thing a million miles an hour and try and analyze it at 360 degrees. Okay. So what this does is it sets the mind to feel safe. And it's not asking you to actually do anything. So the way I'll do this is pick a word, any word. I'll just use, this is one of the ways that I do it just to test it. Pick a word that really triggers you. Like, even if it's a swear word or even if it's a person, like somebody or something that really, really winds you up, like gives you a negative, visceral feeling. Got it? Just all I want you to do is I want you to close your eyes. And I want you just to bring to mind that story, that word, that whatever it is. Okay. And then I want you to notice where you feel it. That's all I want you to do. And just tell me once you've got the feeling. Just like put your hand up and just tell me when you got the feeling. Okay. Keep your eyes closed. Okay. Just focus on the feeling. Now, what I want you to do is just forget the actual story, forget the word. I want you to focus on the feeling. And I want you to rate it between 0 to 10, where 0 is, it doesn't bother me at all, and 10, I get so angry, and whatever it is. So just give it a number. It doesn't matter. Give that a number. Now, all I want you to do is this. I want you to focus on the feeling. I do not want you to try and get rid of it. And I just want you to say these words. You can say it in your head or you can say it out loud. I give myself permission to feel this feeling. And as you say those words, just notice how the feeling might shift or change, go up, go down. Just say it again. I give myself permission to feel this feeling. Now, this is the next bit. I'm completely safe. My mind and my body are just trying to help me. And that's okay. Now, just notice how that feeling shifts or changes for you. And check in with that number. What was the number that you had? And if you were to remeasure it again, what is that number now? Okay, cool. So just open your eyes. What did you experience? Did the number stay the same? Did it go up or did it go down?
It went down.
But so what number were you on?
I was on 7.
And it went to
3.
3. Okay,
Yeah.
right. So Laura, what was yours?
Funnily enough, it was the same numbers, 7,
Okay,
and I was down to a 2 or a 3.
so I call this the constipation method. Right, you'll never forget this when I share this with you. It's not PC, but it doesn't matter. When you're constipated and you need to have a poo, you clench up and go. You try and force it out, right? With that, all you are literally doing is telling the mind you're safe, accepting and giving yourself permission that that is the experience you're having, and the net result is that the nervous system just goes. So with somebody who's got ADHD, when your brain is going all over the place, where somebody neurotypical might say, oh, just breathe, just relax. As soon as you tell somebody with ADHD, just breathe or relax, the opposite happens. So all that is doing is the vibration of each of those words is hitting the nervous system and going, oh yeah, right now we're okay, but we're using that even more. Right now, this is the next one. So that is my default. I use that with everybody, but it's really good. So um anybody who has those moments of mania, I guess, when you get it with ADHD, that little tool, just in like seconds of just honoring the experience and giving yourself permission to feel it, and then just saying, my body and my mind's just trying to help me. And the way I explain this to clients is, we are the most successful virus on the planet. Why naturally would we want to destroy ourselves? Because our only job is to have sex and keep the humanity going. But we've been told that, oh, it's genetic, there's something wrong with you. So we're being hypnotized to believe something that isn't actually true. Why? Because then we can sell you stuff. The other technique that I use is something that I kind of this came from a conversation with Paul McKenna, and he was doing a technique, and I'd worked with Paul at Mind Valley on the certified hypnotherapy course. And I was speaking to him and Steve Crabb. I don't know if you know Steve Crabb. He's like Paul's second person. And Paul was doing a bit of a technique. And I thought, that's really, really interesting. And so I was talking to him. I said, you just did this technique. And I've been really struggling with something. A few of my clients have been struggling with something, but something came up. And I thought, if I did a bit of that, a bit of this, and a bit of that, I reckon this will happen. So we had a good chat. And he went, try it and let me know how you get on. And it worked. So it's not necessarily, I haven't necessarily invented this, but it was kind of just something that I've adapted from something that Paul was doing when he was doing some training at an event that I was at. So I call it the thermometer method. And it works because it takes advantage of the hyperfocus element of ADHD. And it was a way in which I thought, how can I use a meditation to get people to bring their nervous system back into line? So the way it works, I'll explain it first, then we can try it. I always use numbers. So same thing again, think of the problem or this issue or this challenge that causes you a problem. Give it a number. And so what I do now is I get them to visualize a thermometer. And it doesn't matter if you can't see it, just imagine there's a thermometer and the mercury, for example, in your case, is a 7. Yeah. And all we're going to do is I want you to notice, observe that level being a 7. And this time we don't need to worry about the feeling. We've already taken them to the feeling, but we're now taking them away from the feeling, and we're just going to get them to observe this thermometer or experience, if they can't see it, just imagine it's there. And I get them to breathe in. As they exhale, I want them to imagine that it goes from 7 to 6. And then when they get to 6, we do it again, and we do it all the way until we get to 0. Now, the reason why this works is that the other method that we had, where we go, here's a story, here's all the chaos, here's all the beliefs that's going crazy in your mind, we're now taking it to the feeling. And then we're working on the feeling. However, if somebody finds it really difficult, if they're really disassociated, so they can feel the feeling, but they can't feel the feeling, if that makes sense, this thermometer method goes back up a little bit to the imagination. So it's completely safe, unless they've been hit over the head by a thermometer or something and had complex trauma, then obviously use something else. But it kind of works on the same principle as going down the stairs. So it's the same principle. But what we're doing, we're attaching the experience as a number. So we're representing that experience that they're going through as a number. So we're kind of neutralizing the feeling and just representing it as that scale. And so when you then use the breath in conjunction with that, obviously when you cannot produce cortisol and you can't produce all of that horrible stuff that gives us the chaos while you're breathing. That's why breath work is so good, right? And so what we're doing is by connecting to something that is non-traumatizing and then using the breath, we're kind of, the thermometer is really representing the body without them knowing it. Does that make sense? And we're using the breath to connect the mind and the body together, which by using the breath, we can't produce cortisol while we're deep breathing. But what we then will do is we'll start to produce dopamine and oxytocin. And obviously, ADHD people thrive on getting dopamine hits. But it's done in a really positive way where you're not getting a high because it's producing the oxytocin as well. You're getting deep connectivity with yourself. And it's a very quick mind hack if you do get stressed because it's kind of a safe visualization and it's not complex. So think of another challenge or a problem if you can. Okay, and just close your eyes. Now, all I want you to do is I want you to visualize this thermometer. Okay, and even if you can't visualize it, if you can't see it, you know what a thermometer looks like. Okay, just imagine that thermometer and then put it at whatever level, the problem, the challenge, whatever it is. And all I want you to do is take a deep breath in. And then as you exhale, I want you just to imagine that that thermometer is dropping down. And once it gets to the next point down, just pause, observe it, allow it to settle, and then another deep breath in. And then exhale. And just do that until you get that mercury right down to the bottom, like the bubble at the bottom of the Okay, so here's the next question. You can what if the client struggles with that? What if they struggle with that visualization? Well, one of the things that I then started to realize was, and I personally struggled with this, is that we tend to work in absolutes. Okay, so here's bad, here's good. So if I give you an example, this is one that I really struggled with. And so I have a technique called the quantum manifestation method, which I won't go into because it's too complex to explain it now. But this is basically taken from that. And it was, okay, if I've got, this is how I imagine it. I've got a problem here and I don't know how to overcome it, right? And people tell me affirmations, vision boards, and all the rest of it. And my mind is just going, this is BS. Because my ADHD brain is looking for, it's not taking anything as a truth. It's going, I want evidence. I want a full page risk assessment. You know, I want to know how much it's going to cost. I want to know who's involved, who's project managing it. It's just imagine what it's like to be wealthy and abundant. And I'm like going, no. Before we go there, we've got a whole project plan that we need to put in place beforehand, right? So what we need to do is that's safety, right? At the end of the day, it's the mind trying to keep you safe and go, don't move there. It's a con, etc. And so this was something that Louise Hay talks about, and I love it because it's kind of a try before you buy, and it's building a bridge. So what you do is you start off with the safety. So the first thing I need to tell the mind is we're safe. We don't need to go anywhere yet. Let's just chill. So I give myself permission to feel this feeling. I'm completely safe. My mind and body is just trying to help me. That's okay. And this is the power phrase. Wouldn't it be nice if? There's zero commitment. It's like putting your toe in the water. Wouldn't it be nice if I could fully show up as myself? Wouldn't it be nice if I could allow myself to be abundant? Wouldn't it be nice if I could give myself this opportunity? So if we were to take, say, the thermometer method, like the person's going, can't do it, don't like to do it, freaking out. Wouldn't it be nice if I could visualize a thermometer? So if you feel into the resonance of these words, just visualize this thermometer. And the mind goes, can't do that, don't know how to do it, it's not doing it. Blah, 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 blah. And wouldn't it be nice if I could visualize that thermometer? There's like zero commitment. It's kind of going, yeah, maybe it would. Wouldn't it be nice if I could just let go? Wouldn't it be nice if I could just imagine that thermometer right now? Wouldn't it be nice if I could see the benefits of doing this exercise? Wouldn't it be nice if I know that I don't have to commit to anything? But can you feel the vibration of those words? They're quite soft, they're quite comforting. So if you ever get a client who's got ADHD or trauma or even kind of menopause, like when I shouldn't say this, I've just worked with a lot of perimenopausal women, like you're freaking out, nobody understands me, da 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 da, right? Just go in, I'm completely safe, my mind and body's just trying to help me. Wouldn't it be nice if I could accept this change in my life? Wouldn't it be nice to look for the opportunities? And what happens is because we're starting to focus the mind on what the opportunities are rather than the negativity, the subconscious will automatically start to fire stuff up. I mean, the only time this is really never going to work is if you've got somebody who has got deep, complex trauma. And even that, when I've worked with clients who have been really, really tricky, I've just flipped it and said, wouldn't it be nice to not feel that I have to do this? So it's you can utilize whatever the problem is or whatever the excuse is. Wouldn't it be nice if I could let go of this label? Because I'm not asking you to let go of the label. I'm just inviting you to discover what it might be like.
Two of my most tricky clients, neither of whom had a diagnosis, but I felt almost certainly were probably in the realm of ADHD. Just kept saying things like, when I was doing the induction, I'm doing this wrong. I can't get this. I'm doing this wrong. I'm definitely doing this wrong. So all the way through while I'm trying to do the session, I don't think I'm doing this right. So is
Okay,
that,
do you want another power word?
yes,
Watch
please.
that. Watch this. Watch this. Are you ready?
Yeah,
I'll get you to close your eyes and just do what that client did. I'm getting this wrong. I'm getting this wrong. I'm rubbish. Like,
yeah, I'm
okay,
getting this wrong. I am rubbish. I can't do this.
okay. Now, all I want you to do is I want you to say that. And at the
Mhm.
end, I just want you to say these words. And that's okay.
Okay. Yeah.
And notice how your body reacts. So
Mm.
say all of those words, give yourself all of that, beat yourself up.
You want me to do it now? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
do
really
it
rubbish.
now. But I
I'm,
just want you to notice when
yeah.
you say, and that's okay, what your body does.
Yeah, you can feel the release just by thinking it, and that's okay. Yeah.
So this is why, when I said at first, this goes right back to the beginning. The biggest problem that we have with therapeutic interventions is that we're told that there is something wrong. And I've taught this to quite a few people when I've been doing supervision, that the words you tell yourself create the vibrational resonance. And it is the vibrational resonance, so the action, which then makes you move or not move. Does that make sense? But this is why, by just allowing yourself to go, this is just an experience, and you become the observer of the experience rather than being the experience. The advantage of an ADHD brain is it's like AI because it can compute things rather quickly. If you set the environment, it will normally go to the root cause relatively quickly. But you've got to do that first bit of being able to make sure that the mind and the body is safe. But the thing is to honor the experience that they're having and allow themselves to give themselves permission to have that. Does that make sense? So that's where these little, I use them on their own, but it's my way in which I can get them to anchor in safety using something that is completely non-challenging. But I've found that the two most powerful words are giving yourself permission because they've never probably been given permission, and what you're experiencing is okay. So again, that's another little technique that you can use with the clients. Once they've felt that feeling of safety, once they've felt that feeling of, oh, it's okay, you can say, it's okay, amazing. You can feel your body now. Give me one word that describes that feeling or whatever's happened. And then you just get them to repeat. So let's say release, release. Okay, feel a feeling, release. And you can give them that word that, like, post session or whatever it is. All they need to remember is that one word and that feeling. The other thing that's useful as well is if anybody says they've got anxiety or ADHD, I'll try this one with you now. I love this. This just works every single time. So close your eyes. Tell yourself something about yourself that, because we've all got this, like if you don't believe that you've got any negative emotions or any negative thoughts about yourself, you're probably either a narcissist or a psychopath, right? So we've all got something that we think about ourselves, right? So whatever that label is, that which generally would be a negative one, feel the feeling, and then just say this: I just care. Which feels more of a truth, the negative feeling or judgment that you've put yourself, or the fact you just care? Yeah, does that make sense? Has that choked you slightly there, Rachel? Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, it was just really nice actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
It sort of
it's
takes
really powerful.
it sort of switches the focus completely, doesn't it? Away from
Yeah.
whatever the negative thing you're telling yourself is.
So when you look at that from a neurodiversity perspective, as Einstein says, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it'll think it'll amount to nothing, right? Which is basically what ADHD is, right? I'm not in the right environment. Because of that, I find it really, really difficult to communicate my values, my boundaries, and who I am. I don't know why that is, and I really don't know what I need. But actually, in the essence, I actually care. I've never met anybody who's neurodiverse that isn't generally loving and kind. Like, I've never met a nasty person who's got, whether they're autistic, whether they're ADHD, they may come across angry at times, but that's because of that communication bit. It's because of the environment bit. They don't feel safe in their environment. They don't feel heard and understood. But actually, the bottom line is they genuinely care and they want to be connected. They want to be understood. And again, it's just a really powerful reframe to settle the nervous system, because that's actually the truth. It's just the external world has said, you're acting like this, you don't fit in, therefore we need to give you a label. If you look at it from a male perspective now, and you look at us from a hunter-gatherer protector perspective, okay, most men, if you look at school is not designed for the male brain, right? It's a farming environment. It's not a hunting environment. So most masculine people are hunters. It's why most really good entrepreneurs are on some sort of scale when it comes to autism or ADHD. Because to run a business, you have to be a hunter. You have to be aware, because people are going to try and take your legs. And you have that freedom. And if you look, if we go back to that balance of the masculine and feminine energy, the man needs to go out and hunt, But then when he comes back, he needs to fall into that protective energy. He needs to go into the farm because he needs to rest and digest. Does that make sense? But now what we've created is a load of farms where nobody's allowed to go out and we're just a bunch of battery hens. Does that make sense? So it's becoming even more difficult for men. And what we do is we go, you don't fit into the system. This is what you're saying because I can't express myself because men aren't, you know, they're emotionally aware. They communicate through physicality. So they learn at a very young age, you don't fit in. So then they take on this persona of ADHD. Same with, and isn't it interesting that more and more women are now getting diagnosed with ADHD? As more and more women are being told, go and be a hunter. But it all comes down to that environment. So those little techniques that I just showed you are all about how do we reset the environment. And I care is a feminine energy. That's why women, when they're truly in their feminine, create safety in a man. And therefore, if men feel safe, they will protect women. And so we just everything's inverted in the world. Does that make sense? So that's why it's really important that you can't kind of cookie cutter somebody's experience because everybody's experience is going to be different. The story is the gateway to the feeling. The story is the gateway to the feeling. It is the feeling that drives the action. Like ADHD isn't new. Why is there a rise in ADHD? Oh, wait a minute. The world is becoming more controlling. The world is becoming more broken. All's happening is people are waking up. And that's all we're doing here is we're inviting people to go back inside to understand who their truth is. But we've been so conditioned to believe that we have no control. And all I believe with neurodiverse people is that they really, really deeply care, but they've been told there's something wrong with them, which is why I would suggest that you strip the labels off and ask the person, okay, if you were to strip the label off of ADHD, who are you? But it's that environment bit that people aren't aware of. And you can't manifest an external environment until you've resolved the internal environment. Because unless you know who you are, how your brain works, and how to communicate that, and know why that is, and what you need to survive, then you're not going to fit in. But it's easy to give somebody a label and say you're broken. The key points to this: give yourself permission to feel what you're feeling without any judgment, shame, guilt, or validation. So take the label off. That's the first thing. The second thing is to just say it's okay. Wherever you are at the moment, it's okay. And then the third point is that being aware of the words that you say and the vibrational resonance that they create. And how can you reframe those words to create a different environment and a different experience? So the other phrase, this is a Gabby Bernstein phrase, which I love, is how can I see the situation through the lens of love? How can I see this as an opportunity rather than a barrier? Because what I say to clients is that when you get stuck, what if it's just a redirection? Does that help?
Hugely.
Yeah.
I've long suspected my mind was like that.
Yeah.
And everything you've said today, I'm like, yep.
Yeah.
And I think some of it I'd like, without realizing, was adopting. So you putting into words has really helped.
And you've got to the end of the video. I'd like to offer you an opportunity, and that opportunity is very, very simple. If you are suffering with that feeling that we discussed today, that feeling maybe you believe you might be ADHD, you may have had some trauma, or life just doesn't feel great, I want to offer you an opportunity to learn a little bit more and experience a little bit deeper how your mind actually works. And all you need to do is pop over to webinar.makeyourlifecount.co.uk, sign up, and it'll take you through to a webinar where I'm going to give you some of these tools that you can keep so that you can use them yourself. And why not tell a friend? If somebody you know who is having these challenges in life. Maybe they don't feel good enough, they feel different, and the life that they're looking for doesn't seem to be available. It is. I'd love to help you. If you're a hypnotherapist, if you're a therapist, if you're somebody who'd like to dive a little bit deeper, I also offer clinical supervision, and you can go over to themindmentor.co.uk to find out a little bit more about how I can help you as a professional to ensure your practice moves to the next stage. So if you're interested in working with me, pop over to webinar.makeyourlifecount.co.uk, and if you want a little bit of advice and support through clinical supervision, then go to themindmentor.co.uk. If you found this useful, please share it with a friend, let somebody know, because when we set that environment, when we can give ourselves permission to know that we're safe, life starts to change.